let's get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar on optimizing workforce readiness and personalizing learning to achieve organizational goals. This is your host, Etisham. I'm with Ed Sattar, Joseph Winters, and Faisal Khwaja. And we are just about to begin this webinar. I'm sure you guys can see a poll that I've put up. And if you guys participate in it, and it's just one question, a yes, no question. So if you guys can participate in it, I'd really appreciate it. So let me introduce the presenters, and then I will hand it over to the real stars of the show. So Ed Sattar, CEO of Quickstart, he's with us. He's the brain behind the Clip platform. He's spent 20 years in the e-learning industry. He has developed a methodology, a proprietary training methodology called QS Learn, which is incorporated in the workforce readiness platform that we'll discuss today. We've got Faisal Khwaja, the VP of Technology at Quickstart. He leads the IT team in areas of development, infrastructure, and DevOps. He and his team has worked day and night to kind of upgrade the Clip platform to its current version, Clip 3.0. And with thanks to his efforts and his team, we now have artificial intelligence, bite-sized learning, and all those exciting features that we'll talk about later on. And then we have, last but not least, Joseph Winters. He's the Director of User Experience and Product Owner at Quickstart. He has designed the entire user experience on the Clip platform, and he's the mind behind many of the exciting new features that a lot of you have already seen, and some of you will be using in the coming days. So without further ado, Ed, take it from here.
All right, thank you, Sham. Thank you for the introduction. We'll get right down to it. In 2018, organizations spent around, say, $15 billion plus on IT training. And that is a huge investment done by organization, and investments typically require an ROI. So when I go around asking functional managers, when I'm on a speaking circuit, as to what is their ROI metrics and what is the purpose of investment in training and development, and depending on who I ask, I get responses like, we're trying to build a learning culture. We are investing in learning and development to motivate people, and we want to drive career development for people, and we want to upskill our people, and I get responses like that. And with respect to ROI metrics, such as course completion rates, and then I get answers like number of courses taken, and so all these metrics, and even that purpose, to me, they're not as strong. To me, in my opinion, the ultimate purpose of organization is to invest in technical training. If they make an investment in technical training, it's for the company and its staff to hit the goals and objectives and the success metrics that the employees and organizational have set for themselves. So if you have an annual goal, if you have a quarterly goal, if you have a monthly goal, the whole objective, in my opinion, the ultimate objective is, how can we get training and development dollars, investment dollars, to help you achieve that goal, right? So all these activities and all these investments have to convert into some sort of results, and these results have to be tied to these goals. So now you can purchase millions of dollars of technology and software and hardware. Now what, right? Can you really count on your team's ability to meet goals? So for example, if you spend millions of dollars on procuring information security software, can you sleep well at night knowing that your infrastructure is safe? So can you count on them on implementing and adopting new technology? Probably not. So you have to mobilize your team to unlearn and relearn the technology, the new processes, and the new tools. So however, there are barriers in your team's ability to learn and subsequently achieve their goals, and you can't just provide them training and expect that they will learn. So this is what I want to talk about today, is the key barriers and challenges that the organizations face in order to achieve their goals. And then I would like to share our 5-step model for teams and organizations to achieve workforce readiness, and how personalizing the learning experience is the solution to help drive learner engagement. You can hit next slide. Okay, so there are several barriers of an organization to be able to achieve their goals. There's tons of them. However, I'll just focus on 3 and go deep into the 2 barriers and provide a potential solution to it. So CTOs, CIOs, and departments all consistently talk about identifying and attracting and retaining and developing talent as one of the key priorities. So I won't go there. I do understand that that's one of the top challenges. One of a West Point graduate friend of mine, he said, at companies not made up of people, people are the company. So really, if there's no people, there's no workforce, there's no, won't be able to achieve your goals. So I won't go there. So let's talk about workforce readiness. So workforce readiness is about organization. So workforce readiness is about organizations only good as its talent, right? And success depends on having the right people in the right place at the right time at the right cost. And this concept is referred to as readiness, right? So that's something I'm going to be talking about. The other thing that I consistently see as one of the key barriers is the lack of alignment of employee goals with training. So the question, becomes, why do we train our employees? Well, it depends on who you ask. Some people believe the purpose of training is to motivate people, like I said, right? So because of training can be one hefty investment. So for example, in US, the training expenditure in 2017, it was about $70 billion in 2017. So that's a lot of spending. And like any spending in business, as I had mentioned, it should pay off. So from my perspective, the ultimate return on training investment, the achievement of it should be the strategic business objectives. And of course, this means developing training that will equip employees with the knowledge and skills that in turn will contribute to reaching the organizational goals or departmental goals or personal goals. So having said that, those are the 2 areas that I'll go deep in. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. Next slide, please. So here are the 5 steps, if followed effectively, can help an organization achieve workforce readiness and goal attainment. Number 1, identifying strategic business goals and objectives. You'd be surprised a lot of organizations don't even do that. Number 2, you perform a workforce readiness assessment, and then you align training to goals. Then you personalize the learning experience to drive engagement. And then the 5th step is measure, rinse, and repeat. Now, these 5 steps could be pretty daunting, but there's ways to automate a lot of that process by using latest technologies such as AI and so on and so forth. So when functional managers can link their goal attainment to training, I believe this will also help the functional managers and also the L&D leaders have a voice on the table. Because at the end of the day, organization cares about results and goals. And if you can help as a functional manager, help achieve goals, help achieve your projects, and help achieve results that the company set forth, you'll have a voice on the table. So let's go next slide. So why should you align your training programs? So the achievement of strategic business objective is quite clearly related to knowledge, skills, motivation, and effort of the people who work in the business to achieve goals. And this is why training and its alignment to strategic goals and objectives becomes so important. So here's an example of how you align goals to learning objectives and then to training. This is just a simple little example. And by the way, if any of these challenges resonate with you, feel free to write your questions in the chat window, and we'll be able to address any of these questions at the end of the session. All right, next slide. Oops. Okay, so we talked about workforce readiness as a challenge and getting people trained as a solution. But the problem is that how training is delivered and how people consume, retain, and implement training or content is really, and how they engage with content is drastically different than what it used to be. Every person engages in learning journey, and the delivery drastically differentiates, which is really causing disengagement. And so, for example, I'm a learner, and I'm a very advanced learner, and you start giving me curriculum or training, or you exposing me to content that is pretty basic or intermediate, I'll be disengaged. So learning is not just one size fits all. Some people prefer to self-direct their learning through informal learning. And what I mean by informal learning, I'm referring to YouTube, social learning, through webinars like we're doing today, through events, through podcasts, and so on and so forth, right? And in reading blogs or case studies and so on and so forth. And some people prefer to get really high impact instructor-led training in just do quick, deep learning through an instructor. Some people prefer learning bite-sized. Some people prefer micro-learning segments. Some people prefer learning through mentors. Some people they're very auditory, so they prefer learning through some sort of voice-activated learning. So some people prefer learning through self-direction, very self-directed learning. They would like to get their hands dirty and search for it. And some people prefer learning through different platforms, whether it's mobile or whether it's tablet or whether it's desktop. So the overall learning behavior and learning behavior is really, really changing. So in fact, we did a survey. Go to the next slide. So we actually did a survey ourselves, and what we learned is I'll give you a minute so you can digest it. Basically, what this is telling me, that people prefer learning through different modalities. When I say modalities, what I mean is whether some people prefer learning through self-paced, some people prefer virtual instructor-led, private events. They want to do hands-on projects. They learn better doing hands-on projects. Some people prefer virtual labs, so on and so forth. So let's go to the next slide. I don't know if you guys are familiar with IDC, very similar to Gartner. They cover technical training. Basically, what this is telling me is that self-paced e-learning is growing. Each individual modality has shortcomings. So if you are committed to a single delivery modality to your entire employee base, so let's say if you have 100 employees or 200 employees, and if you just say, here, we're going to deliver instructor-led training, or we're going to give you virtual instructor-led training, or we're going to give you nothing but 100% self-paced learning across the board to all 200 employees, to your entire student population, you're going to have 40 to 50% of the people disengaged. So you can't expect for you to achieve your goals when you have disengaged learners. We'll go to the next slide. What's also interesting is there's about 35% plus, and this is something done by IDC survey, that 35% of the people prefer informal learning. So not just structured learning in a very formal setting, but they like informal learning, such as, go to the next slide, such as, and here's some of the examples of informal learning, like learning going through LinkedIn groups, reading a blog, using case studies, and reading a book, things like going to YouTube, and so on and so forth. So now go to the next slide. So there's how do people prefer to learn? This is something that was done by a survey done by LinkedIn, which I thought it was worth sharing. 49% of employees prefer to learn at the point of need. So that means if they're if they're not in any pain, or if there's not a project, or if there's not a goal that they need to meet, or if they're not in a problem of some sort, a roadblock that's or that is enabling or enabling them to achieve their goals, then they're not going to be interested in learning. So they want to learn when there's a point of need, when there's a problem. And 58% of employees prefer to learn at their own pace. I've seen different learners where people start really logging in around 10 p.m. at night, 10 to 12 or 10 to midnight. I see some people like to get up early in the morning at 5 a.m. and start reading or learning. It's just really interesting how the learning behaviors change. And 68% of people prefer to learn at work. Next slide. So in essence, learning is not a one size fits all, and neither is our approach. So in order to go from a basic level of awareness training, you can get away with a sequential and single modality training. However, in order to be proficient and have high impact, deeper skill level training to achieve your goals, you need to personalize the learning experience to really get some proficient and high performers. And go to the next slide. And that's what, now if you really believe in all the data that I shared with you, then delivering training the way it has been traditionally being delivered is really not going to get you the results. And you will have disengaged learners, and a big chunk of your investment is going to wayside. I talked to a lot of L&D people, and I get a lot of feedback that our learning delivery is not effective. The utilization is not there. In fact, it's really interesting how people see that as a key metric. But if you believe in the data, and if the data that I showed you, so whatever we're doing as functional managers and L&D leaders, it is just not going to get us there. So, again, back to definition of insanity, if you continue to do the same thing twice and expect different results, it's not going to happen. It's not going to make any difference. So therefore, you have to do something based, do the analysis on how the learner behavior is changing, and do something that's based on and leverage the latest and the greatest instructional technology tools that are out there, which leads me to, and those are the thought-provoking moments. Those are the things that enabled me to think about, hey, how do we drive engagement? How do we get learners engaged? And that's when I came up with it's a proprietary instructional methodology called QS Learn. And so it has 6 components. So first, you personalize and customize the learning experience. So personalization at the learner level and customization at the corporate level. Then you get them to learn. You expose them to the content in various modalities, whether it's instructor-led, virtual instructor-led, on-demand training, whether it's multi-device, whether it's structured, formal, informal, multi-platform. You make that available to them. Back to the basics, right? Like in the 40s or the 50s, when Maria Montessori came up with the methodology, you just take students, you just put them in a room, and you make all the learning content and tools available. Let them connect and engage at their own accord, right? It's a very similar concept. And then you get them to practice, right? Hands-on virtual labs. You get them to do projects, and so on and so forth. And then also, instead of fighting informal learning, let's bring in informal learning into the system. And which is, let's crawl and scrape a lot of the content that's residing on your LMS. Let's bring in all the content that's on social media. Let's bring in all the use cases and case studies and blogs and videos from YouTube and edX and so on and so forth. And let's convert them. Let's Let's put AI on them and convert them into micro learning episodes. Let's put AI on them and turn them into a very personalized learning experience. Then you monitor the progress. Where are they learning from? How are they engaging? Right? How is it mapping to their competencies? How is it mapping to the goals that they're supposed to achieve? Right? And then you tweak it. And then ability for them to ask questions. Remember, 49% of the people learn at the point of need. So you make that available to them throughout the year. So it's a journey, right? So they can ask questions, they can go back and engage in the content, they can make notes. So I think the traditional way of instructor-led and just having 40 hours or 50 hours, I think that's obsolete. It's part of the solution, but that is not the solution. So this is the so this is the methodology that was created. It's a very simple methodology, and that's embedded into the platform called CLIP, which stands for Cognitive Learning IT Project Performance Platform. And on that note, I'm going to hand it over to Joseph or FK to give you a little bit of a demonstration on the product.
All right, that would be me. Thanks, Ed. Let me just go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to go ahead and dive into the dashboard and give us a little bit of a demo before I hand it over to Faisal. So let me go ahead and log in to our dashboard. Once you log into our dashboard, it takes you to our learning pad, where really you can find everything you want to take advantage of, including your enrolled courses, subscription content, discussions, and more. And what we've done is we've split this learning area into several different tabs up here. Courses, learning paths, informal learning, which is our AI curated content, discussions, collaborate for discussions, and even expert connect. And I'll walk us through each tab as we get further along in this. But really what we did here is this learning experience was designed in a way that users don't have to go through multiple pages and clicks to find what it is they're looking for. You literally search for something and get the results on the content that you're wanting to learn or engage with. Now, before I jump into the demo of each tab, it's important to understand that placing all of this in front of you in one place can be somewhat noisy, especially when you're trying to focus on certain topics to achieve, your business goals and objectives, whatever those may be, which is why we've introduced something called personalization. And personalization is our personalization and adaptive learning engine that asks your interests and then really refines our learning experience into exactly what it is you want to learn. So I can come in here and specify some of the main areas that we focus on when it comes to learning. And I can also add my own if I wanted to. So if I wanted to add cloud, I could add cloud, place it here. And what this actually does is it takes all of those areas of interests and it only focuses your dashboard on what it is you want to learn. Now I selected everything, so I'm still going to have everything visible here on my dashboard, but it allows you to get rid of that clutter that you don't want to see, or those courses that you'd never take anyways. So let's go ahead and dive into each area of our dashboard. Right here on the left-hand side, we have filtering. I can filter by status or learning topic or modality if I wanted to. Let's go into my in progress and see some of these courses that I've already started. I can click on a course here and I'll get a detailed look into some of the options of this course. I can start it. I can see some of the bite-sized learning. What we've done is we've taken these courses that are completely structured and allow you to hop into the modules and lessons on a specific level so that you don't have to sit there and hunt for a specific topic within a course. So if I wanted to only learn about logical processing order, I could jump right into that lesson and take advantage of it without having to search through the whole course. The same thing with informal learning. This is our AI curated content, and what we've done is we've gone out and searched for content related to specific topics, keywords, technologies that are related to this course, and we give you the option to search it, to look at it, and to gain credit for these other external pieces of informal learning. And I'll get to the details of this in the other tabs that I'll be demoing. And then we also have some analytics, right? Your time spent, your course progress, when you started it, so on and so forth. Now I can come in here, since this is a self-paced course, and I can click Start Course, and it brings up our course player. You can see where I've left off on this course. I can hit play on this video and watch it. And there's some other things over here on the left-hand side that are specific to each course, including the course outline. So if I wanted to hop into Module 2 or Module 4, I could do so. I could also see discussion boards around the specific course here by clicking Mentoring and Discussions. And that'll take me over into a discussion area where if I have a question, I can go ahead and comment. You can also see the clip knowledge associated with this course. So there's a specific, you know, and I don't know Transact SQL Server, but if there was a specific part of the course, you know, my YouTube video, Stack Overflow, just different sites we've good resources to put in front of you for our courses. That's Course Player. Let's go ahead and close that. Now we also do a lot of virtual instructor-led training as well. So I have a virtual classroom right here that I can look into, and it's structured the same way. We have bite-sized learning resources for it, informal learning. You can launch the course lab directly from here. And then when you start the course, you can come in, when the class goes live, this join button becomes live and it launches our Zoom hosting software for you. And you can also see, go to Mentoring and Discussions as well to get support or ask a question as well. So those are courses. The next tab is Learning Paths. There are of pathing it's currently, but you can come in and see what you need to do in order to Microsoft Cloud certification. You can see each level, infrastructure, which classes around it, and you can also see the statistics around it as well. So if I wanted to come in and start this, let's see, let's do Microsoft Azure solutions. I can click on it. I can see more about right into this course. As I progress through the course, this learning path will show you progress, and will also let you know when you completed, what's in progress, what's not, and by the little indicators on the left-hand side here. Hold on 1 second. For learning paths is a belt system, like green, yellow, or black belt in the future. Currently, our learning paths are hand curated, but by the end of Q1, we plan on using AI to turn them into adaptive learning paths, further personalizing your experience. The next area is informal learning. Informal learning, once again, is our AI curated content that's relevant and useful to your learning experience, because sometimes a structured course doesn't offer you the latest resources outside of its curriculum. So we use AI to do the guesswork and searching for you. We have plans to automatically track and give you credit on your time spent automatically in the future. And right now in our analytics, you can go in and log this stuff, which you'll be demoed here in just a minute. The next section is Collaborate, which is our discussion boards. Collaborate showcases, a collection of discussions, areas specific to our courses, right? So we have Cisco Cloud, QuickBooks. I can go in here and let's do a search for, Transact SQL Server and get some resources here. And I can go in and let's do Kubernetes. Come in and I could start a conversation if I wanted to. I could follow it and search area the conversations as well. So if you do a search for a key, be able to see directly to that conversation, where you'll be able to see the question and also what the end answer was. And the last area that I'm going to talk about is Expert Connect. Expert Connect showcases our experts, our instructors, authors, and consultants in the industry that are here to help and guide you through your learning journey. You can visit their profile. So let's do a search. Let's do a search for Joseph. And let's go ahead and, well, let's click on FIAS. Let's do this. You can go and look at their profile, see what they're experts in, and we can also assign dedicated mentors to each learner, right? And ties to what we talked on what those are. It is our virtual mentor, which is here to help you answer questions, take quizzes, and more. I just clicked on that little icon in the bottom right hand corner. And this is really our AI bot and answer questions or give you resources that you may need. So for instance, let's add instance in AWS. And it's going to go out, it's going to look at our informal learning content, and it's going to automatically give you some of the best resources that we think are ranked within our content for you on Amazon Web Services EC2 instances. It also helps you with practice exams. So I can say, help me practice an exam. And we've pre-populated it with some of our exams that are already available on our site. So I'm going to pick Microsoft, and then I can see all of the different Microsoft exams that are available. I can say I want to start this administering SQL Server, and it's just going to go through and ask you a few questions. And if you get it wrong, it'll tell you why you got it wrong. And if you get it right, it'll tell you why you got it right. And that is it from my side. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Faisal, where he's going to demo to you manager mode and analytics.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. Let me go ahead and start my, okay. Assuming you can see my screen. Joseph, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So I'm going to cover the analytics area because analytics are instrumental for any manager, CIO, CTO. It helps them to have a pulse on their team's learning. So our CLIP platform collects all kind of data elements that are useful to the management. These analytics are depicted in a visual format for easy comprehension, as you can see on this screen right now. And I will walk you different areas within the analytics. There are multiple areas within analytics, for example, the team insight and my insight. The way you get to these insights is by just going to this top right corner icon, menu options, and from here you can click on insights. Once you click on the insights, then you come into this dashboard where you have two options. Now, mind you, this is from a manager perspective, a CIO, a CTO, SDM, or a team lead who's managing team and wants to look into the data elements where their employees are focusing on, what is my ROI, and generate some reports. So once you come to this dashboard, you have two options. One is to look at the team insight. Again, if you're managing teams, or you can go in directly into your own insight, your own data analytics, because if you as a manager might be taking a few courses yourself. So I'm going to walk through each tab at a time. So let's go to Team Insight. So once you come into the Team Insight, you will see this area where you can see the total completion ratio of your team. So for example, in my particular case, I have 4.48 completion rate, meaning that the courses that I have assigned, the subscription I have assigned to my team members, and the completion rate out of those courses, those subscription, those licenses is only 4.48%. Gives you a good insight into how your teams are actually either taking the courses or not. Total number of learners and over average time spent by your team members, and also active courses, a good view into whether the teams are actively taking those courses or not. So these are the 4 data elements that can give you an insight into your teams. The second widget right here is basically the focus area. So the focus widget allows you to see which courses, which areas your team members are focusing on. For example, you can see at 8.3% of your team members are focusing on app development, 8.3% on the big data and business productivity, and so on and so forth. So this gives you a look into the focus area of the different categories that your team members are focusing on. Moving on, this is the some of the reports that you can generate. I will show you that in a second. But down here, you can also generate different graphs. For example, you can say, okay, I want to see the team engagement by month. So once you click on it, let's say it goes September, so you can see, okay, how much time your UI team is spending. If there was an IT team and other team members who are spending more time, you can actually see the graph, 231 minutes being spent by the UI team. So you can see visually which teams are spending the most time in different courses and in the licenses that you have assigned your team members. This widget right excuse me. So this widget right here is the ROI. This basically tells you how much money are you saving or how much money you are not saving when you have actually purchased licenses from Quickstart. So for example, if you have to spend, let's say $10,000 and purchase, let's for argument's sake, 10 subscriptions, if all of your team members are taking the courses and the total value of those subscription is, if you take individual courses, is $20,000, then you are saving about $10,000. So this way it gives you a good indication of what courses your team members are taking and what are the MSRP value of those courses if you would have taken outside of subscription, and how much courses your team members are taking and how much savings you are actually acquiring once your team members are taking those courses. So a good way of finding out the ROI through this visual ROI widget. Jumping back here on the reports, when you click on download learner progress reports and or maybe total engagement by month or total user engagement, you can generate CSV file for all of these reports. I have just generated a couple reports, so let me share those reports with you. So for example, this one is the enrolled courses data report. So you can, the columns are learner name, email address, enrollments, total enrollments, completed courses, the completed courses name, and completed courses, which one they have done, and the course name itself. So the list of all those courses. So this way you can actually generate there's another report. Let me just pull that one as well. So team engagement, so you can see which team is spending how much time in which month. So this way, again, you can get these kind of reports and run your own analysis if you want to import this data into your own systems for further deep dive into it if you want to. But we provide you these analytics via Excel spreadsheet. Okay, now let me jump over to the My Insight. So once you want to jump over from a team's insight into your individual analytics, then you can see how many courses you are enrolled in, how many courses you have completed, how many courses are available to you from your subscription if you have purchased. This user has subscription, that's why you see a huge number there, and how much minutes that you have spent overall on those courses. This widget right here gives you the area of interest. For example, again, you are spending 8.5% of your time on the UI. You are spending some time on the business productivity and 8.2% on DevOps. So again, a nice visual format. It gives you a good view of which areas you are focusing on. Learning activities, this is my favorite, because here what you can do is you can log in. This pie gives you an overall time you spend on the courses that you have taken from Quick Start. But notice these other pie slices, which basically gives you discussion percent that you have spent, the articles that you have read. The way that we capture all of this data is by clicking on this plus sign when it pops open this dialog box. Here, you can provide the activity type. For example, I can say I've read an article and did some research, and the topic was on app development or big data or blockchain or whatever it may be. And how much time did you spend? And then you can give the title of that activity and the external resource and some notes. So this way you can go ahead and learn outside of our platform, and that's what Ed was mentioning in his earlier slides, that people learn differently. So if you are learning by reading a book, a physical book or ebook or something else outside of our platform, you can still come in and provide the data onto our platform, that informal learning that you have acquired outside of platform, so that we can capture that data as well and include that into our system. And this also in future will be incorporated into badges, so we can give you badges based on your learning outside of our platform. We also have plans where we can actually follow you if you want to, if you have taken some learning outside of our platform, so we can capture the amount of time that you have spent outside on our platform, and then you don't have to record it manually, rather it becomes an automated way. So that is something that we have planned in the future. So this pie chart again gives you a quick view of how much time you have spent learning on our Quick Start platform versus how much you spend on the articles, how much time you have spent on the discussion outside of our platform. The bottom widget provides you a visual way of the time spent on each course. You can go ahead and select or deselect the courses that you may have in your library that you have started, and then you can go ahead, and once you select on it, and basically gives you a different graphical view, a depiction of the courses that you have taken, the total time that you have spent on the course. Again, this is an individual, your one learner's view of different graphs and analytics. The other one earlier that I mentioned was the view from a team's perspective. Now, this is all about the analytics. Now, how do I actually create and assign courses to the team? So for that, I will jump over to this little menu option over here, click on Manage Team. Once I click on Manage Team, it will take me to the team management area. So you as a manager, if you have you're managing multiple teams, you can go ahead and create multiple teams here as well. But if you're managing your own team of, let's say, 5 or 10 people, you still come here and invite users through our invite user mechanism. Let's start from the top. So here, this is the name of the organization that this team, the SDM or CIO is managing. Then you have 4 other data elements. The first one is how many teams are there in this platform. So for example, if I click on it, I have IT and then UI and UI external teams. There are 9 users in the system. You can click on it, it tells you the exact details of the users. The licenses, how many licenses? License could be an individual course, or a license could be a subscription. For example, if I look at here, I have purchased 7 master subscription. I have used 3. I have purchased 1 end-to-end business intelligence using SharePoint 2013 license, but I haven't assigned this. So this gives a quick view for the managers to see how many licenses are still available versus how many are consumed, and then you can renew your subscription, you need to renew your licenses based on this data. Pending invites, again, very self-explanatory. If you have sent invitation to your employees to come and start taking the courses on this platform, and they haven't really accepted the invitation, a quick view into this, and you can resend the invite so they are reminded to accept the invitation and start taking the course. The way that you invite the users is basically coming over here and then providing the email address. So for example, I can give email over here, and then you can provide multiple email addresses by separating by comma, and you can also assign license at the same time. So this way, you don't really have to come back again and assign licenses or assign team to the individual that you're inviting to the system. I can add the licenses, I can assign the teams to this individual, and then I can click on invite user, and the email goes out, and a very self-explanatory process kicks in, where people can get the emails and they can accept the invitation. Once they accept it,
okay, you have 3 more minutes.
All right. So once they accept the invitation, they can go ahead and start taking the course. This grid area provides you their first name, last name, email, and then team they are in. You can also click on it and then go and see some analytics around this specific user. For example, I clicked on this user and I can see the total view time, average view time, last login, start date, active license, and course completed. So there are a few other areas on the top. The call to action, for example, I can click on this user and I can assign licenses by clicking on it. I can move this user to a different team, or I can assign different permissions. Let me just go over to a couple other things real quick. We do have a mobile application, so I have just taken a screenshot of this. So this allows you to actually create your account on Android and or iOS and start taking your courses here. You can launch the course. We do have an API also available. We have recently launched a voice-activated learning for certification exam and bite-sized learning. So more to come on this. Just wanted to give you a quick preview.
Yeah. On the API, if you move back, so this is a platform that it sits on top of. It could sit on top of any of your platforms where your learning assets may reside. So you may have an LMS, you may have a lab, you may have your SharePoint, even your own desktop. You may have your classroom management system, student management system, all those things. It sits really on top of everything through an API, and it just pulls it in and pushes the data. You can push the data back in. And then also, it is a very content agnostic platform. It'll pull all your content as well. And then the whole objective here is to personalize the learning experience. And we feel like it's if you implement a system like this that provides that kind of an experience, it'll increase learner engagement by 25 to 30% versus the traditional methods.
Okay.
All right. So
go ahead, Sean.
no, I thought, are we moving towards the Q&A section?
Yeah.
You still have a few minutes, FK, if you want.
I think I'm done. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so we have one question. Isn't it a drawback to have the training taken at free will, as the student might choose not to take it at all?
I'll take that. I'll take that question. So the answer would be yes. The idea here is that you expose the learner to different content and different modalities, and give them the control of what they want to learn, as long as you set some parameters that what the objective is. Because if you're an individual, then your objective could be different it could be more career development, it could be career enhancement. So you set those objectives and the competencies you want to master. That's where that AI personalization comes in. The competencies you want to master, the goals you want to achieve, the projects you're working on. Now, if you're an organization and if you're paying for it, then you may want to set some goals, and you set that setting, and then you give the control back to the learner. So this really helps give control back to the learner in how they want to engage and what time they want to engage and what modality they want to engage.
So guys, if any of you have any questions, feel free to type them in the Q&A section. There's also a poll that I've put up. Please feel free to take it.
And one of the things, as you're typing or thinking about question, one of the other things that we haven't been able to demonstrate is a workforce readiness analytics dashboard, where an organization could set goal number 1, goal number 2, goal number 3, and goal number 4, and then you can go in and see how your entire team is progressing against each goal. Are they 30%? Are they 30% workforce ready, or they're 60% workforce ready? And an individual could benchmark themselves against that goal. So hey, or the rest of the organization's at 60% ready against this goal number 2, and I am at 80% workforce ready.
So there are a couple of more questions. One is, you are a software as a service model. What does the pricing look like on that?
So yes, we are a SaaS model. The pricing, so there's a price based on users per license per person, and there's tiered pricing on that. In some cases, when we package it, so imagine like this: we have 2 different product offerings. One is a platform, which is it's like having a smart TV. And that smart TV's got content going into it, like CNN, Fox, CNBC, HBO, and so on and so forth, right? So we have a pricing model where you can license the smart TV per user per license, and then you also have a built-in with our content or third-party content. We have partnerships with a lot of organizations, especially within the IT sector, in packaging, in pulling in that content or crowdsourcing that content, or you may have your own content provider and that could pipe that in. So we have 2 different pricing. One is packaged with content, and one is without content, just as a platform.
So another question that came in is, do you have any real data for the 25% increase that you mentioned, or is it just a perception? No.
So we do have real data as to when people are going into this. We have engagement data as to how much people are going in. We also track it through Google Analytics. We're looking at various engagement metrics as to how the engagement level has gone up. So there's scientific, but there's also an non-scientific, where we engage with customers when we ask them, and then they give us that kind of feedback.
So another question is, what's the catch? I mean, this is the most commonly asked question. So what's the catch? How can Quickstart offer courses worth thousands of dollars at a single price point?
Well, if you notice, over a period of last 15 years or 20 years, so back in 2000, a clock hour of content of development cost approximately $8,000 to $10,000 per clock hour of content. So if you developed a 3 clock hour of content, it ended up costing you $30,000 to develop. Then it's the price of development continue to go down over the years, all the way down to even $2,000 per clock hour per content. So you can really build a 3-hour course for less than $2,000. So subsequently, as the cost went down, because the latest and the greatest tools, the pricing also went down and started adjusting based on the cost model. And that's the idea, right? You continue to innovate and you democratize learning by introducing and new technologies and the fusion of AI and machine learning and multimodality, so that you can deliver value to the learners. And that's what we've been able to do.
And like, I would like to add something here. So these courses are being delivered online through this workforce readiness platform. And that kind of, that has an impact on the price point as well, because if we had to fly out the instructor every time, book a space and everything, so going online kind of allows us to do this thing.
Yeah, I've been a part of an organization. Price drives everything. So the cost of development, it drives everything, and then consequently the pricing, the cost of the courses to the consumer also drives everything. So for example, I've been part of an organization where 100% of your learning was done in a classroom setting. And so for example, let's take real estate education, for example. It was, I would say 100% was all classroom. 15 years later, I would say if you were to take certification and pre-licensing programs, I would say about 60% to 70% transition into online, maybe 10% multimodality, and about 30%, about 10 to 20% classroom. And if you take in the food, because the prices went down, so price went down from $1,000 per certification down to $500. People just couldn't afford to do it online, and part of the reason pricing went down is because people were able to consume content through a system. So for example, a bunch of kids that are going to college and high school, they consume data and information through a machine. So that learner behavior carries on into our workforce. So as the cost continues to go down, people will continue to go to different modalities versus classroom. And there was another question, well, why can't I just go to YouTube and Google? The personalization is just not there, right? So not that we're not saying that Google and YouTube is not good search engines, but they just don't have the personalization component. You can invest hours and hours, but we curate that content, and we have algorithm that do concept mapping, and we do all kinds of standardization of tagging, and we pull content from various sources. So it maps to your personalized learning, your goals. So it's a much refined source of content and filtered content.
So like about questions are pouring in, and we only have like 2 minutes to go. So you discussed tying learning objectives to organizations' objectives. Do you have reporting against the Kirkpatrick model or other approach to show the value of the training/learning?
Okay, hold on. Okay, does you ever see yourself going to okay, hold on. Which question was that? What does the role?
Starts with you discussed.
You discussed. Okay, you discussed tying learning objectives to organizations. Do you have reporting against Kirkpatrick's model? Are there approaches to show that the value of training? Okay, yeah. So, look, I've experienced this firsthand, where you tie people's learning to goals and objectives. So it goes back to what I just said earlier. Every activity and every investment you make towards learning and development, why would you do that? It's not because the amount of courses you want to complete. It's not because the amount of, it's not, I don't think the ROI is because we want to build a learning culture. It could be one of them, but the ultimate is really, what are your goals and objectives? So the company set out metrics such as, I want to increase employee satisfaction rate, or we're embarking on this project that we want to complete at cost. Or the goal could be something like this, where we want to automate our DevOps operations by 80% by end of Q3. So these are some of the goals that I just mentioned. Now, so the workforce readiness is the question you need to ask is you set out these goals, but is your workforce ready to achieve those goals? And if your workforce is not, then they better be skilled up, and then things are changing constantly. And I've experienced it, we've lived it, we have data that proves it, that when goals, when training and the objectives of training are tied to the goals, it helps close those gaps. And then people get better and better and closer to achieving those goals.
So there's a question about the role of the artificial intelligence. What role is it playing in customization? Because it looks like the users are choosing their own preferences.
Joseph, FK, do you guys want to take that?
Well, I'll let FK. We do have plans rolling out for it to do more than just select customizing. We'll be in a release here shortly. You'll be able to let it know your goals and your projects, and it automatically analyze what you've told it and pull out keywords and benefits, or keywords and concepts, depending on what it is you put. But for now, it's taking the content and refining it accordingly.
Right, and then also generating some dynamic learning paths. So this way we can set an appropriate learning path based on your needs, like Joseph mentioned, on your personal goals or corporate goals, which can be filtered down to the employee level, and generate courses, content that you should take as part of your dynamic learning path.
Right, and I believe the question about finding training material on YouTube and Google has already been addressed. And I think, yeah, that's pretty much it.
I think this question is related to completion and certification. Yes, we provide all certifications and prep exams as well. So that value is there as well, where you can get your own certification. So typically, from an individual perspective, you would get training just to help to either meet your organizational objectives, or you're trying to meet a certification from a career development. And so either it's technical training or certification training, and we offer both. It's embedded into the master subscription. Yes.
All right, guys, so we are a bit over the limit. Thank you everyone for attending. Hamid, we have a question from you. We will address it. I've noted this down. We'll reach out to you via email. Thank you everyone for attending this webinar. Thank you, Ed, Joseph, and FK for a wonderful session. We'll see you guys, I'll see some of you guys very soon in just 1 hour in the next webinar. And we'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Ed.
Thanks for having us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.